Good evening, treasure seekers. This is Blake coming to you live from New Mexico, and joining me as always from Washington State, it's Brinn and Cody. How's it going, guys?
Good. A nice weekend. Have you guys been keeping up with the World Cup at all?
Yeah, I've been watching the scores and some of the highlights. I haven't sat down to watch a full game yet.
Yeah, I'm definitely not like into soccer, and I didn't get into it like from the jump, but we've had a couple games on. I'm like, okay, I can see the appeal of the World Cup for sure. We watched a match today. I can't even remember the name of the country. It was a country I've honestly never even heard of before. Do you remember what it was, Cody?
Caruso, something like that.
Curacao.
Curacao. Have you ever heard of Curacao, Blake?
I have. Where it is, I don't know. My guess would be in the Caribbean somewhere.
It's like off the coast of Venezuela, I think is where it was when I looked it up.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, that was shocking to me. I'm like, here is a country I've just literally never heard this name in my life. So that was really cool to see.
You guys rooting for any countries other than the US?
I think I always have a place in my heart for Croatia, just because in college we would do a World Cup pool, and I got Croatia one year, and then our parents got me a Croatia soccer jersey that I have. So,
really?
That's my backup.
It's your origin story.
Nice. My backup team would probably be Norway.
Yeah,
Big fan of Norway, so I like the Norwegian team. I saw a funny video on Instagram of like the Norwegian fans. They kind of like sat on the escalator going up to the stadium, and they were acting like they were like rowing a ship. So that got my attention. I liked that a lot. Do you have a plan B team, Cody?
Yeah, I mean my deep heritage would be Netherlands, just like yours is Norway. So we'll see who does better, Norway or Netherlands.
Very fun.
All right. Do you want to start with some quick news and updates?
Yes. Okay, so the first update that I have is the mailbag format is going to be changing. So I know we need like a sound effect for that or something. Don't get me wrong, the mailbag has been very fun, and we're very thankful for everybody who's reached out and taken the time to write in to the mailbag. I know people have been like super generous with the time that they've taken to send us very thoughtful mailbag entries, and it's been super fun to read through them, pick some out to read on and highlight on the podcast. So that has been super fun. However, it seems like the mailbag could potentially becoming a little unfair at this point in a couple ways. So when we started the mailbag, we were shocked to see an email come in. Like, I don't think we expected to have it be so well received. And we're just at a point now where we have received thousands upon thousands of emails. And like, you can think of those as individual emails, but then you can also have to consider like each one of those messages contains, X amount of information. So one of these messages could include a solve that's 75 pages, 50 pages. It could include an entire presentation deck. So there's just a lot of information that is being sent into this mailbag, which again is wonderful. Everyone's been super generous and put so much time into this. The problem is we're now at a point where we just simply cannot read and digest all of the content that is being sent to us. And so that is really tough when that information is then now in our hands, but we're not able to like read it all, respond to everybody. We just can't simply comprehend all the data that is being sent to us. That being said, we also cannot remember every conversation we've ever had. So I think what makes it really tricky is that it has now become unfair to everybody. Like, it's unfair to us because we want to be able to participate in the treasure hunt as well. Like, we're also working on this hunt. We also want to be able to work on solving this hunt. And then it's unfair to the people who are then sending in that information to us because, they've given us this information. And so we feel like we want to be able to attribute that back to them, but it's just like not logistically possible at this point anymore. And so that's where I see the problem with the mailbag. And I especially see this potentially snowballing into a bigger issue as a community, as we all get closer to solving these boxes. In theory, the hope would be that we're all starting to like narrow in on the same solves, right? So hopefully we're all kind of having the same conversations and ideas at a certain point. So we would really be like painting ourselves into a corner where ultimately, like, if we're getting close to something, like, then we just simply can't talk about it because someone's either asked us not to, or we don't have the right people to attribute it to. So I think we're just at a point where I want to make sure there's mutual respect. I would like us to be treated with respect, and I would also like to then make sure it's fair to the listeners and be able to respect them in that way as well. So I think the best course moving forward for the mailbag would be to, if you would like to submit like a nugget or an idea to be submitted in the mailbag, like, let's put that in the YouTube comments, and then we can pull from those. So it's, public information. We can pull from those. Any that we want to highlight, we can put those in the mailbag on the show. And then the mailbag itself will just be like for administrative purposes. I will not be keeping up with it for any solves or theories. If you want to like pop in and say hi, I would still love that. I love when people send in like pictures of themselves wearing their merchandise, or if you want to tell us like, hey, I had this really cool boots on the ground experience. Like, I think that's all wonderful, and we would still love to be able to interact with the listeners in that way. But I just want to make sure everybody can be respectful with the information, and that it's fair to everyone.
Right.
How does that sound to you guys?
Yeah, I think that sounds super reasonable. So mailbag through the email address is no longer for solves or other clues or hints. If you want to give clues and hints, those shall be on the YouTube comments so that everybody can see them. And we will still continue to do the mailbag segment, but it'll just be off of the YouTube comments. Or if there's a cool like Brinn said, if there's a cool boots on the ground experience that you want to share and pictures and things like that, we'll still be looking at the mailbag for that. But yes, 100%, it is too overwhelming at this point. And in terms of what Brinn said about fairness, like, yeah, it's really not fair to people that are sending things in right now, but just because we don't have the time to sift through everything and give it a full time that it should have, and it's just become too overwhelming, which is not a problem we thought we'd have when we started this.
Yeah. No, it's like I said, it's been amazing to see the response. Unfortunately, it's just become too amazing of a response, so we're gonna have to pivot. I'd say the mailbag is not dead; it is evolving. And we'll go from there. We'll see how that goes.
Cool. Very good. You have one more piece of information.
Yeah. So speaking of the mailbag, this would be a good example of how to use the mailbag still. Someone emailed in a great reminder about the resource that the Cowlazars manage, the Treasure Hunt Amusement Park website that they've created that's like high-level details of all the different treasure hunts that are available. And so I think this is a wonderful reminder, like if you have somebody new interested in the hunt that you want to kind of like lure into this, if you want to be reminded yourself of some like the fundamentals of each box or the solve as a whole, that this Treasure Hunt Amusement Park website is super valuable for really getting the fundamentals of the TTI hunt. So we'll be sure to link it in the show notes. It's treasurehunt.amusementpark.com / there's treasure inside. So highly recommend.
They should go to that website after they've watched our new to the hunt start here video after
I
that.
know. When I replied to this listener, I was like, well, shoot, I wish I would have remembered to include this in our, start here video because it is really good information.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for a state of the hunt year 2 in a few months here. And there'll be a new resource out there for everybody, just because I think that's valuable. I point people in my personal life that are either new to the hunt or somehow I let them know that I'm doing this treasure hunt. I always point them to that resource first. So anyway, both of those are good resources. Links below. Excellent. We dive into what's more likely.
What's more likely?
Cody, you have a what's more likely for us?
Yes, I've got a what's more likely for you guys. I'm actually going to rephrase it to how likely is it instead of what's more likely, because I feel like it fits our fancy graphic better, because our graphic's kind of a scale of 0 to 100. So instead it'll be a how likely is it?
Likely is it? Okay. Dr. R Squared sent us a new version that we can edit here. So thank you very much.
Fancy.
Very fancy. I still love that they make noise when you slide.
Yeah, it's the best part.
It's just the baseline now. See, it's on loop. Okay.
I like that even more. It's perfect.
Very cool. All right, down to brass tacks. How likely is it? How likely is it that AI will play an integral role in a box finder's correct solve? So I'm going to say across all 5 boxes, like any of the 5 boxes, that AI plays an integral role in a correct solve. And I will define even for you guys integral role as basically the solver would not have been able to find the box without the AI use, at least not in a similar time frame.
Oh.
That is a tough question and a very good one, Cody. I have to think about that for a bit. I mean, it's going to depend on the. Okay, yeah. If you want to start, that'd be great. Actually,
I mean, I'm also going in this. I try to also do like a blank slate where I don't think about them too much ahead of time beyond like if it's a good question or not. So I don't have my own answer queued up right now. Have we killed enough time in the last 30 seconds here for Brinn to have come up with an answer?
I have my answer. I feel strongly off the bat that it's low. How likely is it? I'm gonna say I would be down around like 8.
Wow.
8%.
8. Wow.
So I do think Jon did a really good job. It's weird to call him Jon. We always call him JCB.
J-Dog.
Mr. Collins-Black.
I think Mr. Collins-Black did a very excellent job, like AI proofing this hunt. That being said, like AI is just like continuing to snowball and get more and more powerful. So I could see it like maybe like a couple years from now, like being powerful enough to like really reveal things that maybe it didn't before. But I think in this current moment, in the foreseeable future, I still think it's gonna be something that AI can't like make happen that much faster by solving. My percentage went down a lot lower, Cody, when you said your clarification of like, I can't remember how you phrased it, but make it sound like it was solved a lot faster with AI than being able to hash it out independently.
Okay. I kind of want to cop out and just stay at 50-50, but I will make a decision here, and I'll say probably like the first box, probably not an integral role, but I think as time progresses, for the reasons Brinn stated, I think that it's slightly more likely, maybe 65%, that at least one of the boxes could be plugged in at some point in the next 3 years and be solved by AI as one of a handful of solutions that it comes up with. I think it could. I think AI will become good enough to be able to do that. I would say even in the next 2 years, let's say. So
Wow.
I think it's highly possible. You know, I don't think putting the lion's share into an AI program right now is too fruitful. There's just too much information in there. But if it's filtering out things that the human user has already decided are the key clues, now the AI coming up with regions to search, trails to search, things like that, I think that's possible in the very near future. Or if not now already.
I will say the AI that you're using, like you use like a paid version of Claude, right?
I do, yep.
Like what that gives you is like shockingly brilliant compared to what I use, was just like if a free like chat GPT or something. In my mind, like the things that you're able to produce, I feel like are really strong. So
Yeah,
that could be skewing my perspective as
I
well.
don't know if they're that strong.
It was able to like program that thing for, I
Oh,
think what you're getting is
for
very,
for tools, yes. For tools that assist in very specific questions, such as make a tool that allows me to put in an image and make a mirror image. Make a tool that allows me to automate the Knight's tour for the word search, for example. Those are a couple tools that Claude has been able to develop. Like, that's there, right? But I think Cody's question is like bigger picture than that, not just single tool development, but put in the Pokemon box and hit solve. I think that's probably nearer than we think.
yeah, see, I that seems so low to me.
And to
Like
clarify, that's
8%.
that's not necessarily what I meant when I phrased the question.
Okay.
And hopefully I made that clear, that it's not like, oh, you just throw the whole, PDF of the chapter into AI and it spits out the correct answer.
Okay.
But the AI would be be a very significant portion of someone's solve that ends up being correct. It doesn't have to be solely just one single step. Pop it in AI, it gives you an answer.
Yeah.
But without AI, they would not have solved it. Or if they did, it would have taken 2 years longer, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I but my bumping mine up, then there's a pretty high likelihood that AI can be helpful in now into the next year or two, I think. Now, whether or not somebody will admit and that will be revealed, we may never know, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know. The trajectory I see here it's pretty potent in picking up details. I mean, the problem with it right now in my hands is like all it does is try to please me, right? And I think that's what a lot of the mainstream models do, is like try to give you information to make you happy. That's its main goal. And the accuracy is a little rough, and it really pigeonholes itself quickly into ideas that you hint at, and then it just goes all in. And so in that sense, I haven't found it to be helpful as kind of a broad search partner yet.
I actually really like it. I think it just has to do with whether I've logged in or not, but I like it when it doesn't remember old conversations.
Right.
Because then it'll give me new ideas. And sometimes when I'm logged in and it remembers old conversations from like previous days, I'll take an entirely new idea and I'll be like, well, this is very clearly connected to this thing we were talking about 2 days ago. This is the correct answer. And I'm like, no, this is not the correct answer.
That's what I've been saying all like someone needs to just create a feature in any of these AI platforms where it's like, just forget everything I've ever told you. Like, erase the history.
Yes.
Clean slate. It drives me nuts.
I'm sure it exists. It will take a quick question to Claude to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, I'm sure it does too. I'm not too scared to stay at just 50-50. I'll hang out there. You can wiggle me around if you want, so it makes the cool sound effect, but then put me back at 50-50.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough because there's kind of, again, two ways of looking at it with JCB's clear use of AI in creating the book, which I think the more like likely one in my mind would be that that would like tell you that he is very aware of AI and AI use
Mhm.
and maybe AI limitations of what it can and can't do. And I have to imagine that over the 5 years he would think of that and try to actively like work against AI and like make it so the AI couldn't solve the solve. It's not like a whole foreign idea to him because he's actively using it. But at the same time, I feel like it's also just so difficult to completely like remove AI from the hunt. So it feels like it's almost, I'm saying it 50-50 because I almost feel like I would be surprised if it wasn't JCB's intention to like go out of his way to make it so difficult for AI. But at the same time, I feel like that's such an uphill battle and such a hard thing to pull off that it's like, is he going to be successful at that or not?
Right. That's unknown.
And could anyone be successful at that or not? One quick follow-up question, because it piqued my interest as you guys are talking about it. It seems like you guys are like really high on how much better AI is going to be in a couple of years. And it seems like that's like really factoring into your how likely is it. To me, it's like I would be surprised if this was like, for lack of a better term, an AI proof puzzle now. I'd be surprised if that is not an AI proof puzzle in a couple of years. And it seems like you guys are not as confident in that, and you think AI is going to get so good that even if JCB did go out of his way and at this point has successfully made it so that AI can't really help you that much, that there's a time limit on that, and we're eventually going to break it.
Agreed. Yeah,
I would think so.
I think that's
See, and
the case.
I don't think that's the case. I'd be surprised.
I was just looking it up on my phone right now. And this is an AI overview, so I apologize. so kind of the big marker for AI technology is what's called artificial general intelligence, AGI. And that is kind of like when it's determined that the AI tool is actually thinking and has general intelligence. Right now, it's just a large language model, right? Where it's taking all of its training data and then trying to produce things that sound like human language based on what it's been trained on. And it does a good job of that. But it doesn't really think, right? And so AGI is kind of the first mile marker that everybody is kind of waiting for. And predictions for when AGI is going to happen is within the next 2 to 5 years is the estimate from the main AI companies. So the problem there is if somebody proves they have AGI, artificial general intelligence, now it's just a money game where you could have 1 million people, basically 1 million brains, 1 million artificial brains that you just put on this task and see what happens, right? So you could pay to have more than the amount of searchers that there are humans that are doing this hunt to work on this and come up with a consensus for solutions that probably are going to be pretty good ideas. So I think it is a bit of a race, honestly. But will humans win or will the machines win? It's a race to beat the machines to the Pokemon box.
So you basically think, this was going to be my follow-up question to you guys, is there a world in the not too distant future where this is really sad, but like is a treasure hunt going to become obsolete?
Yes. And I think there's discussions. No. There are discussions happening about what would make a treasure hunt AI proof. And I think there's a lot of thought going into that right now from a lot of these creators. But I think that is a possibility, unfortunately.
I could probably have another 30 or 45 minute or longer conversation about this whole idea between large language models and general intelligence and my thoughts on it. And
okay.
My thought is, if I have to boil it down to one statement for time constraints, I would say I will not be more worried about it. I will not be significantly more worried about it even 10 years from now than I am in this moment.
Really?
As far as it comes to AI solving the hunt, I think if it's going to help solve the hunt, it's probably just going to help solve it now, and it's not going to help that much more in the future. That's my take.
Yeah, that's where we'll agree to disagree.
And that's not. that doesn't mean AI won't be like significantly better in the future. But getting back to like the general intelligence thing, I think it's a longer conversation. In terms of this treasure hunt, I'm not worried about it.
Very good.
I don't want to think about it. It's sad. Let's all enjoy this treasure hunt. Our analog digital our analog treasure hunt in this digital world while we can.
Exactly. Very good.
What's more likely, that an Amazon drone ends up finding and recovering the treasure and delivering it back to JCB, and a robot wins the treasure hunt?
Right. And they're hopeful. I mean, thinking about how these treasure hunts could happen, I mean, there could be one-day treasure hunts, right, where you actually have to physically go from place to place and figure out those clues. They could hold it in a remote place. That, I guess you can have these models on pretty portable devices at this point, so maybe that wouldn't work. But anyway, let's not have that conversation right now. All right, horseshoes and hand grenades. Brinn, you can kick us off. Can
you play those little sound clips? Like, Cody and I can only hear like very vague, and that was like the saddest little whistle sound that
came. Very faintly.
Okay. I don't really know. This horseshoes and hand grenades, I'm just calling like my numbers extravaganza, because as definitely a not numbers person, I got sucked into a little bit of a numbers world this last week, and I feel like I found a few interesting things that I would like to share.
Okay.
So again, these could be things that people have already discovered. This is all new to me, and I feel pretty proud of it because numbers are not my strength. So if you want to go ahead and share that quick little PDF slide, Blake, I'll just walk through it.
All right, let's see if I can find it here. Numbers extravaganza.
Numbers extravaganza.
Is that what it's called?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I named it Brinn's numbers. H&H Brinn's numbers.
Okay, I might not have opened it. Give me 1 second. I apologize.
It's fine. Or I can just read it too from my screen.
Yeah, why don't you start talking about it, and I will get it up here in 1 second.
Okay, no problem. So, I'll start with the first one, which is, kind of what we covered already last week. So no problems on a visual. So what really got me kicked off on like trying to think through the book in some sort of structured numerical way was when I talked through last week about how I'm very much in the camp of like the 180 pages in part 1. Half of that would then be the missing page 90 would be in the middle, and then half of 90 is 45 degrees. So we've liked that, minus 90 matches the Mississippi River. So that could be like the division of the United States into left and right. Mm-hmm. And then 45 degrees was another half of the half of the half, which divides the US the other halfway. So that was like, okay, well, this is not news to anybody. There's some number patterns in this book. So I just wanted to see like what else I could find. I mentioned this very quickly last week that on page 119, there was a reference to 2/3 of the way through the basketball game, which coincidentally just happens to be exactly 2/3 of the way through part 1. So if you take 180 pages minus missing page 90, you'd be at 179 pages divided by 3. So that would get you back to this 2/3 reference on page 119. I thought that was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. That felt like a razzle-dazzle moment for me. And so then I was just thinking through, we have these references to full circle in the book. If we're using like 90 and 45 as degrees, are we trying to get somewhere with 360 degrees, some sort of like full circle moment? Is there a greater like geometry theme here? Are we doing geometry over the top of the United States in some cool way? Another thing I found was 243 pages in the book. So if you subtracted 9 from that, because it starts on page 9, part 1 starts on page 9, that gets you to 234 pages. And in the basketball chapter, he mentions 2 minutes and 34 seconds remaining in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So in that basketball chapter, we kind of have these two potential references to like how far we've progressed, what's remaining, which is kind of interesting when you think through like fractions and, you know, angles, degrees, trying to get to a whole. I know we've talked extensively about triangular numbers. 15, 21, 28 is the sequence that we see in the basketball chapter. What I thought was interesting was that these triangular numbers are presented within the context of quarters, which if we're trying to think through like parts to a whole, is there something more to the idea of quarters here beyond just basketball quarters in itself? So if we think through, we have 3 of the 4 quarters. What's the 4th quarter here? The next number in the sequence is 36.
Yeah.
And then a quarter. Sorry.
I think I have to pause you there because I think the first quarter is actually 10-point lead. I think
you're right as well.
I think they might all be in there. Sorry.
Okay, well then this would probably not mean anything then.
I don't know. I like the idea of quarters being important. I mean, I'm trying to figure out more square solutions right now, getting away from the triangular. Not that it's not important. It's, in my opinion, extremely important, but I'm trying to find other shapes as well. So I like the idea that you're thinking about quarters as well. In my mind, that would be a square or rectangle reference.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's fine. That's a very valid reason to interrupt, rather than let me embarrass myself. But if that were the case, I guess I was going to say 36 would be the next number in the sequence. And if you were to divide it by 4, because of the quarters, you get to 9, which is the starting page of part 1. So maybe null and void, but I wanted to make sure I could share this with everybody. Again, people might have already found these, but this was new to me, and so I was excited to share.
Very nice. Yes, 10 confirmed.
Thank you. Okay, well, we can strike out the last one. I still do think the idea of quarters is interesting beyond basketball quarters.
I do as well. If we think about the Angkor Wat chapter, right? All 4 corners was mentioned. I can't think of other ones off the top of my head, but that's what I have my eye out for right now. Cool.
All of this is very good, and I'm very on board with a lot of these number themes. I was just in the old table of contents to verify and try and get ahead of some of the comments. If we have anything like we did with the missing page 90 halfway through, you know how we had all those.
Yeah.
I had to bring in mathematicians and physicists and everything to figure out if 90 is halfway through the book or not. So I thought I'd get ahead of some of those. And one thing that jumped out to me to consider here, in the table of contents, JCB actually lists the introduction and the how to read this book ahead of part 1. And then he calls part 1, basically it would be page, 18 or 19? Technically part 1 in terms of how he's labeling it in the table of contents.
And
I think for a lot of
very good point.
Yeah, I think for a lot of the numbers you came up with, especially around the 180 total pages in part 1, that would be all of part 1, but also include the introduction and the how to read this book section as well.
Mm-hmm.
So just something to consider, but I don't know that invalidates anything that you were saying.
Maybe a bunch of coincidences of the day.
Cool.
I was just proud to do something with numbers.
Yeah, no, I think the hope is that we can add to that list as we have an eye towards it in future read-throughs here, but very good. All right, I have a moderate length horseshoes and hand grenades as well. Let's see. Oh yeah. So, I started reading through your first couple chapters again over the weekend, and there was one thing that triggered me a little bit. It was the Alpha Metropolis. So I had brought up Angkor Wat before, just a few minutes ago, and when describing Angkor Wat, the word Alpha Metropolis is in the book, and I'm like, is that like a standard term or even a niche term? And I think the answer is no. So then I'm like, why would he call it an Alpha Metropolis? You know, Metropolis is interesting because of potential Batman. No, that's Gotham. I think, isn't Metropolis Superman, maybe? Where they live. Anyway, Metropolis, I think, is a Superman term. And so we have the superhero idea concept out there. But Alpha, so Alpha, what is Alpha? It made me think of the NATO alphabet. So that's the traditional Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, etc. Like, is that a hint towards using the NATO alphabet in some way? So then the task was, how many of the NATO phonetic words can I find within the book? And does it spell message? So here's my evidence here. We have alpha twice. And again, it's because alpha was in such a weird context, I would argue. Alpha Metropolis, which doesn't seem like a real term. And then in the George Washington chapter, we have the Alpha Soldier. So 2 mentions of Alpha in the book. Nothing for Bravo, nothing for Charlie, asterisk. We'll get to that in a second. Nothing for Delta, which is a little surprising, I would say, just because there might have been a place you could throw in a river delta, right? As a way to use that term. I'm kind of thinking it from JCB's perspective. And there's another one that I'll flag a little bit later here. Echo. So that one is in there. They recalled the solutions they had managed to find and echoed a belief that a chance might still exist to win this game. So Echo, even though it's echoed, not echo. So asterisk on that one. Hotel. There's several instances of hotel within the book, which is H. Several instances of India in the book. There's one instance of Lima, which is interesting. So the 8 escudos coin seen on page 108 was hand pressed at the Lima mint. So I kind of liked that. That was exciting. Mike. We have Be Like Mike several times in the book. And then we have the 2 Mikes as part of the Apple chapter. Chapter 1 about the founding of Apple. There's 2 Mikes and 2 Steves. We have November. Jackie rode in the open air alongside her husband on November 22nd, 1963, when he was shot and killed in Dallas. And then we have Victor. Victor Hugo as part of the Picasso chapter. So those are the letters of the NATO phonetic alphabet that I was able to identify. AEHILMNV. Of course, I went to my favorite anagram solver, the Bolter anagram, iterative anagram solver, and 8 letters. Unfortunately, I do not get a single 8-letter word out of this. So maybe a little bit more playing around with a 2-word phrase potentially, but right now I'm a little bit less excited about this. Questions so far?
I'll comment that there was a lot more than I initially expected there to be when you brought up the idea.
Right. Me too. Now, the one that I thought would be there and it wasn't, and this kind of triggered my spidey sense, was uniform. Because I thought that uniform was mentioned in the George Washington chapter, and I was surprised it wasn't mentioned in the Nigerian soccer team chapter, because they had to like clean their clothes, right?
And didn't they like have to turn maybe they say jerseys, like had to turn their jerseys inside out?
Yeah. So
I was thinking the same thing, but about Kilo. I thought that Kilo seems like.
So there is, but it's only in the context of kilometer. So there is one single mention of kilometer in the book. And in my mind, kilo is a weight, like a kilogram. We call it kilos typically, but not. So I didn't include it because it was a kilometer reference, not a kilogram reference.
Yeah, and it makes me instantly think about the strange phrasing of like dozens of grams of gold instead of like half a kilogram of gold or whatever it would be.
Kilo, yeah. So there's a couple things that kind of raised my hackles a little bit. and uniform was the main one. So yeah, I said uniform was suspectedly missing the Nigerian soccer team and George Washington chapter. And here's the quote from the Washington chapter, and see if you find this odd. Washington was easy to pick out as he was dressed in full color regalia, and the British soldiers continually fired directly at him. So nothing about a uniform. But that was the phrase I thought probably had uniform in it, and when I looked it up, it did not. So kilometers, I have that flagged here. Papa, I was able to find for P, but as part of paparazzi in the Onassis chapter. And then Charlie, that one's tough because we have Charles Loma like 100 times in the book. We also have Charles Lee and Charles Tiffany, who's the father of Louis Tiffany. So anyway, I don't quite know what to do with Charlie, if you consider Charles or not, but I haven't done all the iterations of including these or not, but I feel like we need more vowels regardless. So no Oscars, unfortunately. So that's kind of as far as I've taken it.
It was a really good idea. I like it. I think of these, the Charlie Charles is probably the first one I'd be inclined to be like, yeah, we can include that one. And I also wanted to confirm Metropolis is correct for Superman.
Thank you. You can have my nerd card back. All right.
I also thought there was an interesting overlap between the letters that you did find and letters used in the Roman numerals. Because you had, if you pull it back up, I think you had like I, L, V, M. So like half of those were Roman numeral ones.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I like that thought.
ILMV.
Yeah,
it's probably.
Yeah. There's this could be a puzzle that my anagram finder can't figure out. So
AI proof.
Let us use the power of the community to see if anybody finds this interesting and comes up with something clever. The other thing I did was look into whether or not there's other phonetic alphabets historically that were of interest. And there was a article on Mental Floss that described 4 other ones. So there's a Amsterdam, Baltimore, Casablanca phonetic alphabet, which is credited with being the first spelling alphabet adopted and used internationally. Was developed by the predecessor of the International Telecommunications Union in 1927 and revised in 1932, comprising a mixture of world-famous city names and place names alongside a handful of instantly recognizable names and surnames. And so I have the list down below. Amsterdam, Baltimore, Casablanca, Denmark, Edison, Florida, etc. So thinking about other ways, if it's not the NATO alphabet, would there be other words that we could include in here? And I haven't done the research into searching the book for these names, so I'm throwing it out there as an idea. There's an apple, butter, Charlie. According to the Oxford English Dictionary, some words and syllables like ack, beer, Emma for the letter M are known to have been used since 1898 at the latest to avoid confusion between sound-alike letters like M and N, B, D, P, and V. So there's another set of 3 different phonetic alphabets that you can see here on the right. Number 3 is Authority Bill's Capture, listed in an early edition of Brown's Signaling, a long-running guide to telegraph communications. So even another one here. The interesting thing about this one is that it makes a little phrase that you can try to memorize, even though it's not in alphabetical order. Englishmen invariably support high authority unless vindictive. The managing owners never destroy bills. Remarks when loose play jangling. Fractious galloping zigzag knights expeditiously capture your queen. So that was so you could remember them.
How am I ever going to forget now?
Yeah. Brutal.
And then I would say the most interesting alternative is this one, Against Barbarian Continental. This one was brought in to help add the Morse code translation of letters, because the amount of syllables in the word matches and the length of the syllables matches the dots and dashes in the Morse code. I thought this was interesting. For example, against is a dot and then a dash. And then you can see at the very end here, they have, for Z, they have too long, too short, because they couldn't come up with the Z word that was 2 long syllables and 2 short syllables. Anyway, this one is a little bit controversial because depending on how you pronounce the word, it doesn't quite work. But, you know, we talk about Morse code here and there. I thought this was interesting.
That's a really cool one.
Speaking of Morse code, I just want to insert the thought that I literally had a thought wake me up at 3 a.m. a couple nights ago. And in the moment, like, why at night is everything so like a big deal or just like a huge revelation? So during the night, this woke me up. I thought all the weird dashes in the book, it's like a line joining 2 ideas together. Like we've solved the lion share. Oh, it just seems so dumb when I woke up, but in the moment, it was a big deal.
It's a revelation. Breakthrough.
Yeah.
All right. So that's what I have. Any parting thoughts or comments about phonetic alphabets?
I think the alternative ones are probably too far of a reach for him to expect people to gravitate towards that.
Yeah.
I do think like the 2 instances of alpha, like maybe that's kind of trying to join 2 ideas together potentially. When you first brought up the idea, like I do really like it, and especially with kind of the different communication or the telephone and calling connections we've had throughout the book, it seems like it would align really well with that. Yeah, I wouldn't give up on it. I think it's worth considering, keeping it in our back pocket.
Very good.
Agreed.
Right. We dive into the mailbag.
Mailbag. We've got mail.
Brinn, you have the last episode of the current version of the mailbag.
You know, that is a good point, though, because I have so many mailbags right now that I will have some for next episode as well. So I'll have to give a disclaimer.
A little bit of a backlog that we'll get through. But
little backlog.
Starting upon release of this episode, no more hints or clues.
I don't want them in the mailbag. Okay. So this is from Alex. This is about Joyce Serenade. I feel like I'm about to mispronounce a bunch of words here, but he says, a note, a molten tone of a tune is Pythagoras tying together music and mathematics, his eureka moment. It was said he was walking past the blacksmith shop, and while hearing the molten tunes of different sizes and length of metal on the anvil, he went directly to produce these tonal differences with strings in his lab. He developed a fundamental system to organize intervals of notes based on the frequency. The essential understanding of music as math is foundational to music and makes sense that this is the first stanza of Joy's Serenade, the final poem, which maybe he was alluding to it being the final boss. I'm not a gamer, though I'm a musician, and I'm pretty sure the above is correct.
Hmm.
This seemed amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never heard of that legend before, but it does seem to be a real story, even if it's a myth slash legend. It's in the public domain, I would say.
Oh yeah.
Cody, you have done
Oh, yeah.
more diving into this idea based on this email. Is that correct?
Yeah. No, I really like this one. This one got me all riled up. Very excited about it. I think that it's like, I think there's a, I don't know how I want to phrase it. I think there's a high likelihood that this is exactly what JCB is referencing in
Wow.
Joyce Serenade. I would say that.
Really?
I'll say that. I'll say that. That's what I'm thinking right now. And I'm really excited about it. I like it a lot. I feel like it fits perfectly. And I would say if you also like the idea, you should go read the whole little, whatever you want to call it, myth, legend, anecdote. Because it's interesting. It's not very long. And yeah, it just feels very spot on. So I ended up doing a lot more research into it as well because I was so excited about it. Some things Brinn already had mentioned, but I really like is like this one's not as important, but I'll start with that. The eureka moment thing, because we have the word eureka, which is a very standout word in the book. And then this whole concept of basically ratios, I think is like the big takeaway from it, because Pythagoras basically walks past the shop where they're blacksmithing on the hammers, and he finds that like a hammer that's, forgive me, I forget the exact ratios, but it's like a hammer that's half as big produces like a perfect octave scale note above a hammer that's twice as big. And then if there's a hammer that's like 3/4 as big, it produces like a perfect fifth or something like that. Obviously not the correct numbers, but this idea of, I know you guys have really been looking for like music references and being able to like tie together music references to these more like mathematical concepts. It's like the perfect connection between mathematics, geometry, because of like the actual geometry of these hammers versus just like strings, and music, like those things all packaged together. This whole like Pythagoras story led to the idea of musica universalis, also known as the music of the spheres. It was like a direct successor of this. And one of the things that Pythagoras believed, and it's basically this idea that he came up with that was like, if the anvil story was the seed, it evolved into this idea that all of the planets create like a hum or a music themselves all around that plays in like this perfect harmony as they orbit. And I believe he was like calculating the different notes for the different planets. And it was like all in this perfect harmony. And when people quizzed him on, hey, if all these planets are making a perfect harmony in the whole universe around us, why don't we hear it? And he basically said, we're constantly hearing it. So our brain like filters it out. Like you filter out, like kind of like how you filter out looking at your own nose all day. You just don't recognize it unless you're thinking about it. He's like, yes, we're like born with this universal music around us that becomes our baseline, and that's like kind of what we think is silence. So I thought that was super interesting. So I got excited. I did even more research. So the first line that we think that the Pythagoras story is connected to is this idea, a note, a molten note of a tune. And then it goes on to say, rest inside all of us who want a song to follow. So for the rest inside all of us, I found something else that's pretty exciting, which is if you think of the human ear, there's 3 little bones inside the human ear called the hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup that allow us to hear. So I feel like, and I looked into it, and it's just like pure poetic coincidence that that's not actually related to the Pythagoras myth of like figuring out how we hear different tones, and then these notes that we actually like physically use to hear different tones are named after like the same thing of like this hammer and anvil, like have the same origin. So I feel like that is like that could be line 1, line 2. I guess not line 1, line 2. What, line 1, 2, 3, maybe 4? Like that could be all these connections between like ratios and mathematics, music, rest inside all of us, all these connections. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot there. I would invite anyone who's interested in that at all to do some looking into it, because I don't feel like I'm doing it justice here trying to talk about it. But there's just a lot of connections there that feel like perfectly described by JCB's very flowery language, abstract language.
Interesting. Super interesting. But that would put you in the camp of some outside research to know about the Pythagoras as having that legend associated with him.
Yes.
Okay.
It would. In this moment, it would.
I do think we got some, like, at least when we'll get into the how to read the book section, but I mean, he just tells us directly in this section that his intention is for us to explore some things further.
Yeah, but I'm kind of wavering on that a little bit based on a couple of interviews where he kind of reiterates everything that you need is in the book. Anyway, I
don't know.
An age-old debate, of course.
Yes. But, it's a spectrum. What if I don't know what triangular numbers are and I have to look it up?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yes, and you don't have a map in the book, obviously. Like, there's ways to poke holes in this very easily, and obviously, I just showed you the phonetic NATO alphabet. That's not in the book, right? So where do we make our cutoffs? I don't know. That's why finding one box is gonna be so helpful, I think.
Yes.
For that question alone.
Yes. You may have to look beyond just ancient myths and legends and consider more.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah. I'm digging myself into my own hole just because, like, I like to do the outside research too. I'm just playing devil's advocate, that's all.
Yep.
Cool. That's super cool.
Age-old debate.
Very nice. Very nice, Alex.
Oh yeah, we're still in the mailbag. Okay. Next one is from Lisa, and I have a screenshot from a PDF that she sent us. So I was really excited to receive this because I feel like we were very much on the same wavelength of, like, maybe how this Art Smith image could theoretically be used in a certain way. So after our conversation with Latitude and Longitude, I liked what she had to say here. She said, I went back and looked at chapter 5 AI image of the dancers. I think there could be more than one clue hidden in that image. There are various lines in the picture, but the horizontal lines at the top and the vertical lines at the bottom seem to stand out. Some of the vertical lines at the top bend inward towards the center. This is similar to longitude lines that converge at the poles. So I really liked that insight. That was super clever. The horizontal lines on the bottom are parallel, like the latitude lines on Earth, which are often referred to as parallels. The horizontal lines also seem smaller at the top and spread outward toward the edges of the image at the bottom of the page. Again, these resemble the lines of latitude on a globe. This also makes me wonder if there could somehow be coordinates cleverly hidden or concealed somewhere in the book, or if all the minutes and seconds mentioned in chapter 13 and 16 could somehow hint at coordinates. It's all worth considering. So I really loved how she was tying in, like, how these converge in the Art Smith image, similar to the globe. I didn't include her whole PDF here, but at the beginning she talks about the line where it's like our green and blue Earth spinning. So that was kind of like pulling her back into, are we supposed to be considering, like, this overall image of the globe? So I thought this was super cool.
A great idea. Makes me think about using the jewelry that's drawn on those figures as maybe a map overlay. I'm sure that has been done. I have not thought about it myself. That might be interesting. I like this concept a lot. Cody, Brinn.
Good food for thought.
Good food
No,
for
yeah,
thought.
I agree with what you just said.
Good food for thought.
Totally, I agree with what you just said.
Yeah, I guess I'm more skeptical about the minutes and seconds in the soccer chapter. That sounds so challenging to me. Just because it seems like, based on your research, Cody, and the research I've done, that those seem to be accurate. They weren't fudged at all. So making that fit particular coordinates on a map seems like a big challenge that JCB would have to deal with.
And remember, I did that exercise with like the rephrasing of it, and it was surprisingly not that difficult.
That's true.
You can like, even though there's like actual data of what was scored and at what minutes, the way that you choose to phrase that, you can phrase something like, 3 minutes in, or you can phrase something like with 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
And you can say they were down 2-1, or they were up by 1 point, or something like that. To say the same score, it ended up being surprisingly easy to formulate something that read like a normal retelling of a match, but get to kind of pick your own numbers to do it.
That's a good point. Yeah, that'd be worth revisiting that concept again. I don't know. I'm kind of confirmation biasing myself out of that in the anti way, but let me see if I can shift my mind to accept that again.
Change your perspective.
Change my perspective. Don't wing it. Cool. This is a great idea. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, the last one is from SS Junebug 87. This is going to tie back to Sanskrit. I have an image for this one as well. And I would like to say this image looks familiar. And maybe when we pull it up, you guys can tell me, does this look familiar to you? I don't know if we like previously looked at this in a mailbag before, or if this was something I've like saw on Google. But anyways, I think we
it
might
looks
have...
like the Coltrane Circle of Fifths.
Oh, maybe that's when we were talking about it. You're right. Yep. That sounds familiar. Okay. Anyways, I can't remember the exact conversation, but wanted to read SS Junebug 87's thoughts here. In Sanskrit tradition, there's the idea of Nada Brahma, that the universe is sound. Sound creates structure, and structure creates reality. The systems like Carnatic music, Melakarta scales are mathematical and patterned, generating different outcomes depending on arrangement, almost like a blueprint. I came across a circular Sanskrit music system where a parent generates variations. Each new pattern becomes kind of a child. It immediately felt like it tied to the book's recurring themes: music, generational relationships, rotation, and angles. It also reminded me of the Hopi calendar and the image of Hathor with the sun disk, both circular structured systems where the meaning shifts depending on where you are at in the cycle. So I thought this was some great insight. I love the Sanskrit connection, of course, because we have the mention of the tattoo. And of course, there's very similar vibes to the Hopi calendar.
Yeah, extremely. There's 12 chunks here. Cody, will you just read off everything on this calendar, please?
It's our language expert.
For those just listening, it's a very, very complex 72 different, let's say, quote unquote, notes that are being annotated here with different names. And then, yeah, it does look like the Hopi calendar, though. 12 main chunks. That's interesting. I like the Sanskrit connection. Super fascinating. I'm going to have to dwell on this a bit more, though.
Yeah, this is going to take some thinking about, but I like a lot of it. And obvious connections to what we were just talking about with the music, universal music thing.
Right. Seems like there's some good synergy there.
Yeah. And also feels like another overlap of two things that JCB is clearly into, of like Sanskrit and music.
Nice. Okay. I like that.
Very interesting. I'm going to look into this one a little bit more and cross-reference some other things too.
Junebug coming in clutch.
I'm glad it could prompt some new inquiries. Love it.
All right. Right. Looks like we are on to Discord detectives. Brinn, you also have Discord detectives today.
And it is truly from Discord. I made my, I don't know, monthly check-in, quickly perusing through Discord. I can't remember how I found this specifically, but this was on the Mysterious Writings Discord from a user named Bitsia. And it's very simple. They said, a turning square. How else do you draft a blueprint? It was just a nice little nugget to ponder on. And it included like a picture of a right angle. What do you call that tool? Like the straight edge that's a right angle, and then a straight edge.
A square, a triangle.
Yeah, I think it is a square. So I guess it made a nice visual in my head as I've been having this vision of like laying things out and drafting over the US as a blueprint. So short and simple, but impactful.
So for map making or blueprint making, map overlay, a blueprint on a map overlay. Yeah, that's interesting because I've never really found a good official turning square definition before. The one I always come across is just like a block of wood that you have on a lathe before you turn it, a turning square. But if there's like an official definition of a turning square, or that's like a name for a drafting triangle, that's very interesting. I'll have to attempt to see if that is good or official. And even if it's not official, at least this is a good explanation, a potential explanation for what the turning square could be. That's always been a very big mystery to me.
Did you not like my Pythagorean theorem turning square idea?
Remind me what that is.
Well, because we had the triangular numbers connection, and I like this kind of like geometry. So maybe doing something with a triangle, and then this mailbag with the idea of Pythagoras. Like then I thought, well, maybe Pythagorean theorem. So if you think about like how that works, you have like a area off one edge of the triangle, another area, and it kind of like rotates around to then you get the angle off the hypotenuse.
A squared B squared equals C squared.
Yeah, and so that's the area. It's like a square, actual square area that would be
rotating around.
Anyways, I'm
the triangle.
sure it's a huge stretch, and I am not saying that's what it is, but I do like that it gives you like a physical area.
Yes. Yes, I like this concept overall, just because JCB was stated that you don't, like, locals don't have an advantage, and I don't know how that's possible. But
yeah,
some sort of geometric puzzle does make it possible that locals wouldn't have an advantage for some of these boxes.
Something else that just popped into my head as Brinn's describing these triangles turning is when you're like drawing out a triangle that has a right angle, you put the square in the corner.
Yes.
So that would be like a square within a triangle that all rotates together. Something to keep in mind. Little triangle square.
Yeah. And I think that's an important thing, Cody, is like the Pythagorean theorem only works on right triangles, meaning you have to 90 have one corner that's a 90 degree.
Solved.
So it's a good.
I don't know. We laugh, but I think it's all going to come together.
It does seem like a lot of significant connections.
Angle geometry world.
I mean, that 45 degrees. The tree was bent at 45 degrees. How had I not noticed that? As a quote in the book. Yeah.
Thanks for confirming. Yeah.
Cool.
It's just, I think ahead to when we have all the solves and looking back, it's just, I think it's going to be so funny. I think it's going to feel so easy
We will
In
have
hindsight.
to remember all of the information we have to sift through.
All right.
Yes.
Cool.
Tell us
Great.
about indexes, Blake.
Oh, okay. Let's have a quick puzzle corner.
Puzzle corner.
Puzzle corner. All right. This is truly a quick one. It's 1 or 2 slides only. If I can find it, puzzle corner. All right. So this is indexing. It's a puzzle as part of chapter 2B. It actually has a pretty close connection with acrostics, so I won't go into it in too much detail. And this is official Puzzlecraft Puzzle Corner today. The Puzzlecraft is this puzzle book that we have found very interesting from Mike Selinker and Thomas Snyder. That is a several 100-page book about how to make different types of puzzles, how to make every kind of puzzle, quote unquote. So I just have a screenshot or an actual digital image of the book here in the indexing section. Indexing is a process of letter extraction from a series of word or phrases. It involves counting into each word by a number of letters specified by some other task or clue. So this fits nicely in with your numbers extravaganza, Brinn. How else can we use numbers? For example, to hide the name of a fruit, you could give a list of other fruits with the numbers in parentheses. So here's a list of 5 fruits, and then this puzzle is very easy because it tells you which letter to look at. So A is the 7th letter of rambutan. P is the first letter of pomegranate. E is the 2nd letter of apricot. L is the 8th letter of tomatillo. And E is the 9th letter of mangosteen. And that spells apple, another fruit. So, thinking about the next read through, like as we get some of these sections that have numbers in them, maybe you take those numbers and look for some keywords in the same sentence to build out some sort of indexing puzzle. Just as a thought. That's puzzle corner.
How about past and future, where we've got a list of a grid with a bunch of words in it and a bunch of numbers in it?
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way to link specific words with specific numbers and use that number to index the word and then end up with a list of just letters?
Yeah, I think it's possible, and I think we would be foolish to think that people haven't tried a lot of iterations of that.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure it's been done.
Even myself, like, on the left side of the word search, we have count 11, right? So I think there's been a lot of people that have iterated on, you go 11 down, you go 11 across, you take the numbers and make the intersection of each of these and come up with a letter. But I think it's worth revisiting, Cody. I think that's a great idea. But when I was doing this puzzle corner, I was thinking more about these random numbers that we see in the book. Why are some numbers spelled out? Why are some numbers not? I don't know. It just seems like there's more to do with the numbers. And maybe not, because we have the triangular numbers and the geometry associated with those things. But anyway, just throwing it out there as an idea as people can think about as they're reading through the book.
I do like the indexing connection back to the Dewey Decimal reference in the book.
Great.
And then we also have the line about our treasures might be cataloged. So, I mean, I think both of those are very similar to indexing.
Okay. Great point.
You just need to find a word that's at least 36,000 letters long, so we can index our 36,000 foot view.
Easy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is a puzzle, a book-wide puzzle. I think it would be very localized to a certain section.
Yeah,
what that section is,
similar
I don't know, but
yeah, similar to like the triangular numbers,
right?
That are in just like that few paragraphs.
If something seems off with a weird set of numbers, maybe try an indexing approach real quick and see if anything starts to form. I don't know. Anyway, I will be looking into this as I do my next read through.
Puzzle corner.
Puzzle corner. Should we do coincidence of the day? Maybe I can find it. Ooh.
Are we running long?
No, we're fine.
Okay. I'm gonna do two, one super quick.
Oh,
It's
never
the
mind.
picture I sent
Never
you.
mind. Too long. We're fine.
I sent you a picture of a golf ball. So I was golfing the other day and I found this golf ball on the golf course. And what does it say?
Minor. M-I-N-E-R.
M-I-N-E-R.
You were just talking about mining.
Immediately took a picture as a coincidence of the day.
And then you immediately accidentally hit it in the water.
No, it actually stuck with me all 18 holes. Somehow, yeah, somehow.
Nice.
Through all 65 strokes. That's nuts.
Wow.
Thank you.
What was the back nine?
I've actually been playing pretty decent lately, so happy with the old golf game.
I like how you took it with your
Okay.
golf gloved hand to really show them you're
What?
golfing. You didn't
You
want to
hold
give
your phone
away.
with your right hand.
You didn't want the AI to capture your fingerprints for the internet.
That's it. You can never be too safe. Okay, the other coincidence of the day is actually someone emailed in. This is from Nick, and this is kind of long, and he sent it in within the context of like, this is a coincidence of the day. But I thought it was, I don't know, funny is not the right word, but it's a good coincidence. He said, might be the workings of a madman, but here it goes. Wondering if this means anything or if it's the craziest coincidence. If you were to make an acronym for each of the box's names, so like the Appalachian Footpath box would then be TAFB, Past and Future box, TPFB, Force Fen box, TFFB, Pokemon box, TPB. So the least common denominator rules, he would take out the and box. So he's considering those obsolete. You cancel those out. You're left with AF, PF, FF, and P. So he said a lot of F's and P's in a random A, but you translate each letter into the corresponding number. He says this is the easiest elementary cipher on the planet. You get 16, 16, 6, 6, 6, 1, 6. Well, I'm not sure what to do with this. If anything, I find it insane that all the words happen to have exclusively ones or sixes in the title. Even if you wanted to include A for past and future, that would be another one.
Mm-hmm.
He says, like what? What are the chances? If the solves do not include this info, I'd not be surprised at all. But can this even make a coincidence of the day with the TTI pod?
People
Anyways,
can't. People
thank you
can't.
for your time. Never miss an episode.
People can't use the mailbag and disguise clues as coincidences of the day. It's not.
That's
allowed.
a good. No disguising.
So what were the letters? Are A, T, P, and F?
AF, PF, FFP. So yeah, you have AFP.
1,
That's it.
6, 16.
So not
1, 6,
T.
and 16.
1, 6, and 16.
Mm-hmm.
All right. This is a coincidence.
That's cool.
Right? I thought it was
cool.
pretty fun.
This is a good one.
Valid coincidence of the day, but it took a little too much effort.
I call it
Yeah.
better than a golf ball.
Better than a golf ball, but more effort than finding a golf ball.
Cool. Great one. Thank you, Nick. Right. Should we dive into the shortest chapter we've read called How to Read This Book? How to Read This Book, but chock full of information.
Yeah.
In my opinion. All right. Who wants to start? We're covering the section called How to Read This Book just after the introduction. And There's Treasure Inside by Jon.
By Jon. I don't know why that sounded so weird. That was all wrong.
All right. Any
do
volunteers? Cody.
I'll pull a classic Brinn and just talk more macroscopically about
Sure.
the chapter real quick.
Excellent.
As you just mentioned, very short chapter. very chock full of information. And then also the fact that it's just like, when you just take a step back and it's a introductory chapter called How to Read This Book. Feels like if there's something in here that we feel good about, we need to remember it and follow it and stay on track, because it's literally instructing us. This is how to read the book. This is what to do. This is the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's just my Brinn-esque introduction to the chapter, and then we can do nuggets.
Very good. All right. Shall I go next so we keep our full circle? If you are someone with no interest in finding the physical treasures I have hidden, then reading this book should be a straightforward exercise. So new context to think about there is, if you're not looking for clues, it's a straightforward exercise. If you are looking for the clues, then is it a circular exercise? Is it a jagged exercise? Is it a triangular path that you need to take? Just throwing it out there, that one kind of captured my imagination as the opposite. What's the opposite of straightforward?
I literally wrote the same thing. I hadn't picked up on this before, but I think since we've been talking about, mapping and routes and all the different ways you can go with that, yeah, like what in this context, what is the opposite of straightforward? So TBD, but I'm excited that we both picked up on that.
Yes. Brinn.
Do I start with my big exciting one?
Sure.
I think I will, just in case. I don't want anybody to steal my thunder.
Is it a hand theme?
Okay. It's not hand. I have that later. I have it later. So in this How to Read the Book section, he says fictional flair at the beginning, and then at the end, he says Mother Nature beckons you. So I thought this was really interesting because flair is, of course, F-L-A-I-R, but if you think of flare as an F-L-A-R-E, that's like a beacon, right?
Nice.
And then Mother Nature beckons you. Beckon comes from beacon. So we have like two instances of beacons here. So then I immediately thought, we have these lighthouse connections in the book, which, like, what is more symbolic of a beacon than a lighthouse? So then I was thinking through like this guiding light, because we have flare, Mother Nature. I guess that's not really like a light, but to then go back to the lighthouse connection. Blake nicely helps me out with gathering some quotes in the book about guiding. So I consolidated all of those and I'll read through them. It's not crazy, so this won't take too long, but I do think it's really interesting if we have these two, I think a pretty good case, because we have the lighthouse mentioned in the book as well. Two good beacon references in the How to Read This Book section. Okay, so that first part, the guiding lights, is just what I talked about with flare, beacon, lighthouse, and then these are the other guiding quotes that Blake had picked out searching through the book. It was as if an invisible hand was guiding my task, orchestrating each step from afar. Faith is an invisible force, but a powerful one. Faith is akin to having an ethereal treasure map guiding supposed to be each step of our way. Disregard my typos.
Itching step.
Itching step. Like a breeze blowing in the direction I need to go, inspiration guides me. Like the wind, inspiration is an invisible force that can move us. It's almost magical, something that can guide us through that threshold between serendipity and destiny. There's no need to force the clues to fit any location you want them to lead you. Instead, let them guide you in a direction they want to take you. So it seems like there's a pretty good theme of guiding here. So I don't know. I was really excited, I guess, to make my hypothetical connection between flare and beacon here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like your flare homophone connection there. Not pick up on that. And it seems obvious now that you pointed it out. Beacon is kind of laughing because beckon is like, in my notes, beckon is a hand theme because it's like, I'm here. Right? So there is a hand theme involved, but you took it as beckon slash beacon as its etymology,
Yeah.
which I like a lot. And these quotes were very, I don't know, seemed aligned when I was pulling them out, and they're all from kind of disparate parts of the book, which was interesting. So there's a lot to digest there. It's not like there's a clear answer of what to do, other than this is clearly a theme that seems important. But what to make of it, I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, especially like the invisible hand versus the invisible force.
Mm-hmm. A conductor with a baton, right? Like,
yeah, so back to Joy's
it's in
Serenade.
Joy's Serenade too, but we just need the turning square, I guess. Cody.
Yes, we got to be looking places with poison ivy since we're supposed to be having itching steps.
Haha.
No, I like it a lot. I think that there's going to be something in the final solve that like makes that connects all of that.
I think that like maybe it just kind of gave some sort of something more tangible to this idea of light. Like in so many chapters, I've been like, light is a theme, light. But at least here, I'm like, well, if lighthouse is part of that, we're kind of at least directing it towards something if it's supposed to be some sort of guiding light. And I think that could be really interesting if we like look into that within the Hopi culture. Is there something with an eclipse where like the sun is symbolic of some sort of guiding light? Does the sun trajectory guide them through the seasons? I don't know. I think it just helps give direction to this super broad idea in a little bit of a way.
Bright blue laser beams from his
Yeah.
is there a face at all in the book? I guess the kid doing the layup, like
we have the face of the butterfly in the Octavio painting.
Yeah, I'm thinking more of like, yeah, how do we, and this is probably way off base and kind of outside of your scope, but your verbiage you just used made me think of it. But like, is there a face in the book? Is there a reference to eyes elsewhere in the book that we need to stick a line somewhere, point to some keywords?
That'd be a good idea. I do find it interesting that so many of those quotes have to do with like an invisible
True.
guiding.
True.
Which I mean is totally in line with the idea of like sight. But I think that I'm almost less interested in like an actual lighthouse because that would be like a tangible thing, like actual photons or whatever. And I guess a lot of my other things I would think of are still technically particles and stuff. But if you think like, I don't know, the first thing that comes to mind for me would be like, are there maps of like wind?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because I know there's like Gulf streams and stuff, right? But is there more detailed of like this is like standard wind across the United States? That's something I had like zero knowledge of.
Some of these other two quotes, like a breeze blowing in the direction I need to go, like the wind, inspiration is an invisible force.
Yeah, what's an invisible hand? I mean, wind would be something like that. What else could be wind-like but not wind?
Maybe gravity in the sense of like rivers flowing to central the Mississippi River.
Wouldn't laugh at that.
Oh, I'm
Crafty
just
is
laughing
good.
because it's the classic
Confirmation bias.
confirmation bias.
But you're right, Bryn. I mean, there's 2 direct mentions of wind as well. Like your idea of a wind map, Cody.
Yeah, I'm not sure like the extent to which that exists. I'll have to do some research.
So is this all just a reference to flags, maybe?
To flags?
Yeah, because you need the wind to kind of blow them to open them up. It was as if an invisible hand was guiding my task, orchestrating each step from afar. You'd see the flag from afar and know which state it's in. Faith is an invisible force, but a powerful one. Faith is akin to having an ethereal treasure map guiding each step of our way. Yeah, doesn't really fit that. Like a breeze blowing in the direction I need to go. Inspiration guides me. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking too practically here.
I think I said akin. People are gonna make fun of me. Or akin.
You did. Cody smirked. I saw him.
I didn't say anything though. I told Brinn the other day because she said something wrong, the same word twice in one episode. And then I didn't correct her because I felt like it was mean. And then later on, I just said it correctly to try and like, in case she was going to say it again so that
Inception.
she'd know
Yeah.
what to say. And her response was just, you say words wrong all the time on the podcast, Cody.
Viola.
Viola.
I know it. I know
It's
it.
fine. If we speak for 2,000 hours online, it's surely gonna say something wrong.
JCB
this
says
is-
we don't have to be a genius. We don't need to know how to pronounce all the words.
Aiken. It's just something about when you read something out loud.
Curacao. It is. What was it? What was the one we were struggling with? It wasn't Schadenfreude. It was, yeah, I forget now. Masochist.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say I have learned a handful of new words over the duration of this treasure hunt
Me too.
that I use in day-to-day life to sound educated.
Please play that molten tone of a tune. All right. Sorry. Let's see. That was Brinn. So Cody, you're up next.
Perfect. Every chapter has something of value to take from it, a lesson or message that we may apply to our daily lives. I invite you to reflect on them if you'd like.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty straightforward, just reflection, something we've been keeping tabs on, and something he mentions very early on in the how to read this book section.
Very nice. I'm going to go back to what Brinn just talked about. Some historical flair is added for storytelling effect. And I was just doing kind of a quick exercise to try to figure out what chapters would he have added historical flair to. The one that's most obvious, in my opinion, is the shipwreck chapter, where he has the whole dialogue and story about it. Like, that is historical flair. But where else in the book do you think he added historical flair? And I'm kind of not thinking about his own stories. I'm thinking about the stories about the treasure items and the history he tells there. So did he add historical flair to the Steve Jobs founding of Apple? Did he add historical flair to the shipwreck? Check. Yes. Did he add historical flair to the Greek mythology? What do you guys think?
No.
Not really. I mean, he did
not to the extent of the shipwreck.
Right. So some historical flair is added for storytelling effect. Is that really just the shipwreck chapter, or do you think he added maybe the Chivor mine? Maybe. He doesn't know how that exploration journey went necessarily. But I was just trying to kind of catalog where he might have added other historical flair, not counting his own personal vignettes. So just an open thought. You don't have to, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but you don't have to come up with them right now. Just a thought exercise.
Yeah, the shipwreck one definitely seems like an outlier of like he very much added some historical flair to that one.
Because that's, I mean, the only part where we actually get this like side note narrative.
Is it? I'm not 100% sure of that. And that's
At least in that length.
Right. It's the most obvious, but I'm trying to figure out if he did it there, where else would he have done it? So it's kind of a question to think about as we do the next read through. Don't have to answer it now. All right, Brinn.
He keeps alluding at this idea of a mural. So, what does he say? To help illustrate a theme, the attributes you need to find the treasure are really many of the ones illustrated here. So illustrated. I hope these stories add color to the larger mural here. You won't need to understand every clue or hint to bring together the full picture. So what is this full picture mural illustration that we are trying to create here?
Yeah, it would be really interesting to condense all of the like very macroscopic big, this idea of like assembling a big picture. I feel like that's all over the book. And it's like a mural or like a big blueprint or big map or a big picture.
Yep.
This idea of, and the idea of not needing all the clues and hints, you know, also lends itself to like that as a concept of like, you can kind of see what the final result's going to be once you've got it 80% complete. I'm really, the number of those kind of excerpts in the book makes me think that like that might be like a very significant portion or like methodology for the lion's share is like this making one big thing. You need like pieces at a time somehow.
8 billion lifelines across the globe, as you pointed out last time.
Yeah. And he just has so many little quips like that.
Agreed. Yeah. You just have to do the exercise. Good luck. I'm going to make a PowerPoint slide. Good one.
I guess like that, in addition to what we were saying earlier, though, like it does make me very confident that there's going to be some sort of like activity, some like sort of overlay over the United States that is going to direct us to this location. Like I think at that point that feels like a very tangible thing that we just need to be doing.
Yeah.
Little arts and crafts.
Arts and activity night, right? JCB specifies that in chapter 23. You just need to get down and do some paper mache.
The Mod Podge out.
Mod Podge. Get my Cricut. Start doing some...
Yeah. Do you have a Cricut?
No comment.
You totally have a Cricut. I'm jealous.
All right, Cody.
On the other hand, if you were eagerly awaiting for me to shut the hell up, ... So he's very, I mean, he's a children's book author appealing to a general audience. I mean, yeah, I know it's not like outlandish to say something like that, but no. I think he like generally writes with such like a G-rated tone and prose throughout like everything, obviously his children's books, but then through this whole book as well. And then there's just like a handful of times he says something that like, again, it's not like super brash or like crazy, but it's just like jumps from G to PG. And it's like, huh, I didn't expect that. Like,
it feels out of place.
The goat piss, the horny as a goat.
Yeah.
There's like jump out as like strange. And so it almost feels like because they're so few and far between, because they feel it just seems weird coming out of Jon's mouth. It's it almost feels like it makes me wonder if they're there for a reason. And it's hard to think like what would shut the hell up. How could that be a clue? But I don't know. This is like very clear and obvious spidey senses.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. Is it some sort of wordplay? That's what I was trying to figure out. But he could have said "shut the heck up" too, and it would
Maybe
have
it's
been
back
fine.
to all the
But
fiery concepts.
STHU is an anagram for shut. Is it a pointer towards a puzzle? I don't know. That's a stretch, but it also is jarring to me when he does that.
I was aghast.
Okay. Do you have any ideas on that, Brinn, or should I move on?
My best guess was like what Cody said, some sort of fiery fire
Okay.
connection.
Okay. I like that. I like it. All right. On the other hand,
Yes.
that's my next one. Sorry. I realize I stole
Absolutely.
that from you.
That's fine. Hand theme is everyone's theme.
On the other hand, so I like that with kind of our left-right cherry image. I also like it in context with the mitten that was discussed in the introduction, because it was just a warm mitten. So we have a warm mitten, and now in this chapter we have on the other hand. So what's on the other hand? Not a mitten, but something else. That's how I was trying to think about it. Doesn't make any sense, but definitely an on the other hand and theme moment that I had to flag.
Yeah. I agree that it was exciting to have the contrast to other hand.
Right. Brinn.
Makes your spidey sense tingle. So this was kind of a twofer because we have the superhero reference, but then we also have this tie back to this bucket we've called like brain and nervous system.
Oh. I didn't think about it in that context.
'Cause didn't we also have something like about like tingle down your spine or something like that? Butterflies in your stomach.
Mhm.
So that felt like it was all related.
Do you want to read that whole quote just because it's something that it's one of those ones where I feel like we reference it every one or two episodes?
Yeah.
Do you have it in front of you, Blake? I don't have my book out.
Yeah, I can
I
find
have
it
it.
here. Okay, go ahead, Cody.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll read it. I'll back up quite a bit here. The first thing I would advise is to read this book once through, thoughtfully, indulge in it. I have subtly placed many clues within the text of the book. As they're not always overtly obvious, you may or may not pick up on all of them right away. That's okay and to be expected. I'd suggest jotting down anything that makes your spidey sense tingle. Thought it'd be just good to read out because we so frequently reference it off the cuff as just spidey sense tingling.
Mm-hmm.
That is the quote we're referencing.
Thank you.
Spiders sense the world primarily through vibrations, air currents, and chemical cues rather than
Air currents.
relying heavily on eyesight. They rely highly on highly specialized hairs that cover their bodies and legs to act as a natural radar system, feeling even the slightest shifts in their environment. I looked up spider senses.
I mean, I know we have the spider connection with superheroes, but we also have the spider. When does he talk about like the
Confirmation bias?
Like an alluring spider, confirmation bias has been entangling treasure seekers in its web since the dawn of time, infected with its venom. Yeah, so this whole spider thing can kind of go two different directions as well.
Agreed. That's the thought process I had to think about. Literally, what does the spider sense? The
I like
vibrations,
that a lot,
is that
actually.
music, air currents, and chemical cues. We have the the carbonaceous meteorites, right?
Solved.
Instead of eyesight. So maybe we have to feel the book.
Invisible.
Feel the X on the cover of the book.
Ebook readers, you can just rub your Kindle.
If we were still just doing screenshots for our thumbnails, that would have been it right there.
Oh, you missed it.
Like eyes closed, rubbing his book.
All right.
All right. I'll do one much like the Spidey Sense. I'm just going to read this one in its entirety because it's another one that we reference very frequently. Also, if you find a topic or story captivating or intriguing and your instinct is to go research further, I invite you to do so. It's not outside the realm of possibility. That was my exact intention. Who knows what fun and interesting stuff you may discover. So that's always a hot quote when we discuss that quote versus his other quote in the book about all you need is the book.
Yeah.
And what? Pair of shoes.
Yeah. I think we don't need to have the Never mind.
Yeah, we don't need to have the conversation.
No,
I just wanted to,
no.
It felt wrong to not read that quote out and read the Spidey Sense quote out because they're two that are so frequently referenced.
Right.
I just think it's so hard when like it's like one of his most direct references to like exploring furthers with that Washington book, right? Isn't that book like crazy long?
Yes.
And so it's just I don't know. It's hard. It's really hard to know what we're supposed to look into.
All right. Thinking about the spider as well, Brinn, that you just brought up, like, is making a spider web weaving a web? Just a thought I didn't think about. I think there's a spider called a weaver, and I can't remember what the first word is, but some sort of weaver.
I would definitely consider a web a weave.
I looked up the word subtly along with some of the other words. Subtle traces its roots back to Latin subtilis, which literally means finely woven or underwoven. It is a compound of sub, under, and tila, a web or the warp threads on a loom. Originally, the word was a weaving term used to describe gossamer thin, delicately crafted fabric. I thought that was fun when I found that.
That's amazing.
So then that put me down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I'm like asking AI, and maybe it's just trying to make me happy, as we just discussed. What are some other hidden history words that have to do with weaving that we don't think about today? So the first one was subtle. And I didn't ask the AI what subtle etymology was. I asked Google that, and then I used Claude to ask this question. And the first one was actually subtle that came up. I think that's a coincidence. But let's hear some of these other words that have to do with weaving historically that we don't think about now. Stamina. Don't think that's referenced in the book, really. Tenterhooks. Tawdry. Shoddy. Sleazy. Heckle. Maybe because of the JCB presentation that he had to give. I don't think he really got heckled from the audience, but that was my thought. Clue, from Clue, a ball of thread. I think you had pointed that one out before, or Mailbag had, right?
Yeah, we've heard it at some point. It sounds familiar.
Line, distaff, and warp, which I like warp because of Star Trek.
Warp and weft.
Yep.
Yeah, warp and weft.
So anyway, a little bit of a rabbit hole that was interesting just because I randomly found that subtle had to do with weaving.
I really like that. It has to be intentional.
It fits the theme of what he's saying, though, pretty well.
But think about, it's definitely not out of place, and that's why I like it so much more. But in the in the introduction, doesn't he say like something about we have to look into what the true meaning of treasure is.
Yeah.
It's kind of like he's teeing up the idea of entomology. Etymology.
Entomology is for our spider discussion. Etymology is for our
There we
word
go.
discussion.
We're really dialing it in now.
Call me Mr. Bug.
Mr. By your
All
friends and neighbors.
All right, Brinn.
From time to time, I think we even talked about this last episode, but just the idea of the weird time references in the book. I even really like that we have the Fabergé egg being a clock. You know, the idea that time can be minutes and seconds for coordinates is a certain way. So if you had from time to time, like that could span a region. Anyways, it just seems like there could be something here to work with.
Yes. The time is a weird one. Cody.
Do not overlook any part of this book. Almost anything could be helpful to your cause.
Nice.
So I see that like three different ways, kind of three different layers. He could be referencing like the literal within the pages of the book, like don't overlook the introduction, don't overlook the how to read this book. Don't think it's just chapter 1 through 23. That could be one way of reading that. It would be valid. You could also think we've got our pseudo haiku on the inside of the dust jacket. That could be something he's referencing. Or you could get potentially even more creative with it. I know that early on in the treasure hunt, people were really literally tearing apart their books to see if there was anything else on the inside. I'd ever heard of anyone finding anything.
Right.
And then obviously the release of the ebooks kind of would make it difficult to believe that there's anything kind of like really hidden inside the book. So I would guess that that reference is to like dust jacket and probably, you know, every page within the book. But I remember that being an interesting clue or note early on.
All right. I'll say 3 words that are part of the introduction, or sorry, how to read this book. Indulge, marinate, morsel.
I'm hungry.
All 3 food words, which, you know, when we've talked about food themes before, they seem very few and far between. But suddenly we have 3 right here that I would say are pretty food related, even though we don't necessarily see that theme throughout the rest of the book. So I don't know what that means. Indulge, marinate, morsel.
Interesting. I think I really had picked up on marinate and I didn't know what to make of it. Yeah, indulge and morsel. Huh.
Anyway, just throwing it out there. I don't have any bright ideas about it.
I do like it.
Brinn.
My last one, and I'm sorry I didn't write down the whole quote, was just I wrote the pointers.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if he's talking about pointers and we are trying to figure out direction and where we're being guided,
Yes.
the pointers seems very important.
Finally know that the pointers I've left for you in this book will only bring you so close to any hidden treasure box. So, pointers, hints, clues. I can't remember what the other word was in or the introduction, but there was one more word that I had flagged as what JCB has as different, or maybe they're all the same, but clues for the book. Cool. Very good. Cody.
This one's something that's always stood out to me and always been in the back of my mind is the picnic thing.
Uh-huh.
So at the end of this chapter, he says, take a friend, bring a picnic, find treasure. And then in let me check what chapter this is. Chapter 12. towards the end of the chapter, he says, instead, it's very possible that at least one of our treasure boxes rests not too far from you. You might even discover one during a leisurely afternoon outing in which you enjoy a picnic with a loved one by your side. So those feel very similar, both for some reason revolving around a picnic, which is kind of somewhat strange. And then like to have one at the beginning of the book and one like halfway through chapter one, kind of evenly spaced out. It's almost like he was kind of trying to reiterate it, put that tickler back in your brain halfway through the text, but not be too overt about it. So I don't know. That one's something that's always, like I said, it's always been on my mind.
Yeah, is there a picnic ground near the area? Kind of how I read that at this point, but
Yeah.
It does relate back to food. Picnic would be food.
a little morsel.
I could see morsel with picnic. However, marinate does not seem to go with picnic.
It would be a barbecue at that point.
Mm.
Cool. Do not overlook any part of this book. You did that. Almost anything could be helpful to your cause. I think that's part of that same quote, right? Okay. On a semi-final note, and then I had to look up what semi-final is, if that's actually a term, like a musical term is what I was interested in. This is what Google AI came back with. A semi-final note is not a standard musical term, but it is often confused with a semi-quaver, which is a 16th note, or a semi-breve, a whole note. The prefix semi means half, and note names are derived from the Latin-based system traditionally used in British music education. So, going back to our gray discussion, is JCB using the British music education annotation? We'd be paying attention to that. I don't know.
Oof. I hope not.
Okay. Brinn.
I just want to, I am done. I'm out. But I do want to flag that picnic is a word that came from France.
Nice.
Of course it did.
Yeah. I'm very. Go ahead, Cody.
No, you go ahead. Mine was a different topic.
Yep. That's fine.
Okay. This is my last one. This is another instance of me probably taking things too literally, but it's still worth thinking about. It's a lot like what Blake was saying earlier about. Wait for it. Oh, straightforward. If you're not looking for clues, the book will be straightforward. So if it's not, which is probably too much to read into a JCB excerpt, but I'm going to do the same thing on this one. So he says, I'd suggest jotting down anything that makes your spidey sense tingle. Let your thoughts marinate on the book after you finish. On subsequent reads, it will most likely become easier to distinguish clues more clearly. So I thought, we've talked about it a couple times, but the let your thoughts marinate on the book after you finish makes me think that this would not be, that there's maybe some level of clue that's more like, how do I say this? He's basically instructing you to finish the book, close the book, and then think about what he's written, which is not like anything that I've done. I'm like constantly like evaluating certain sections and looking at things. And I guess we talk about themes in general a lot on the podcast, but it's just like, it's interesting that his instruction would be to read it and then close the book and like not be constantly referencing these things. To just let your thoughts marinate after one reading. That's just, I don't know. I'm not explaining why it's interesting to me very well, but it's just like so contradictory to how my approach to everything. There's zero marinating.
I feel like I marinate. Okay. I don't have any more either. Any more for you, Cody, or is that your last commentary?
That was my last one.
Okay. Then that is an episode. Any parting thoughts, or should we log off?
Was this our 100th episode, or is that next time?
That's a good question.
For our 100th episode spectacular, we shut down Mailbag.
Yeah, we need to. Yeah, we should think of something special to do for 100th episode.
Nice.
I think that'd be fun. It is worth celebrating.
It is definitely worth celebrating. We have never missed an episode. Is that correct?
Yeah.
On Cody's insistence.
And then
Honestly,
I've missed a couple. I had good excuses though.
It's quite impressive. Just like when you think about how busy life is, the fact that we just logistically could make that happen. I'm very proud of us.
It's a very impressive feat.
We're so great.
For our 100th episode, we'll do a montage of all the words we mispronounced.
Oh, that'd be funny.
All right. We will see you guys next week.
Searching for clues, let's run.